Hello, welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for sACrowd, and with me today are two people making this sACrowd. I don't know, I probably had something better going on, but anyway, it's my good friends Matt Hunter and Manny Cruz. Say hi.
Hi.
Well, that's a good way to get things started, but just a few bits of info to get underway. So this is sACrowd, released on the 30th of December 1950, so just sneaking in 1950 there. It had a blue ribbon reissue in sometime in 1958. It's the 608th in the series, and it's directed by Chuck Jones. A new restoration appeared on HBO Max, which is what I'll be using here, and it's a great restoration. I believe they even put back the original opening titles, which is always a lovely thing to see. So, in case you haven't seen this one or don't have HBO Max, I mean, I can't show you the full thing here due to copyright on YouTube, but essentially a man gives his wife a new puppy, much to the annoyance of Claude Cat. The puppy constantly annoys Claude with his yapping, and so Claude tries to do something about it. So pretty much when Manny talks and I have to try and edit him, you know, he constantly yaps and I have to edit him. But anyway, I kid, of course. I love you, Manny. It's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
And speaking of sure, this is actually the first Claude Cat short that does not have Hubie and Birdie in it, and it's also the first appearance of the Frisky puppy, who would end up being in 3 shorts in total. And next bit of trivia, it's actually a topical observation, and no, I'm not going to change the channel to Anthony's washing machine talk, but that automatic washing machine that you see now, automatic washing machines were around. They were invented, but they were mainly in laundromats in big cities. They were very expensive, as you can imagine. Then, of course, World War II happened, but with the post-war boom, washing machines were suddenly becoming more and more affordable and could be in the home, similar to fridges and similar appliances. So not only is the gag funny, because it is, would have been very topical, and maybe even more funny to people watching it in theaters at the time. So, next up on Anthony's washing machine talk, no, I kid. So,
there are other household devices that we ought to consider in this cartoon, and this is basement coal-burning furnaces. How in the world was that not a hazard to everybody in the house living? And if you watch a movie set in the late 40s, early 50s, like, say, A Christmas Story, you also see coal-burning furnaces in the basement. And there's also the classic Christmas movie Home Alone that also deals with a coal-burning furnace in a basement. And it's like, how in the world did these people not burn their houses down or die of carbon monoxide poisoning? I don't understand how that worked.
Wow, this cartoon, this recording session, we're recording it after Bushy Hair, which, you know, we liked enough, but I think we're all in agreement that this short was actually funnier. I think we enjoyed this one. What do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is what Jones, in some interview, in some book, I can't remember where I read it, but he called it a baseboard cartoon. It's animals from the point of view of animals, kind of similar to MGM's Tom and Jerry cartoon, which, ironically, Jones would end up taking over for a while in the 60s. But it's really interesting, the perspectives that we get here. It's all from the point of view of animals. And also, something of trivia, Chuck Jones used to complain about limited animation. And the fact is that Chuck Jones helped invent limited animation in a brilliant way. You see Claude Cat, design number 3 or 4, depending on which cat character you consider Claude. He sneaks across a baseboard, his head is on a held cell, and his body is on a walk cycle. And it is the exact same technique that Hanna-Barbera used for Scooby-Doo in the 1960s. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I would argue even earlier, although it was definitely a lot more expressive than what they did at Scooby-Doo, but things like Flintstones, Huckleberry Hound, they would have 2 layers. They would have the head layer, they would cover up with a tie or a big collar or something, and then have a different thing with the body so they could reuse cells and so on. I will say that as funny as this cartoon is, and it is, the big takeaway from this, and my favorite bit of all, are Claude Cat's expressions throughout the whole thing. Just...
Oh, absolutely.
Wow. Just, it's absolutely incredible. I mean, look at the beginning. He's sharpening his tooth and his nails.
The eyes. I mean, this is Jones just getting started at his best. When we get in further into the 1950s, you see just what a master Jones was at facial expression. Like the eyes and the lip curl over the tooth and all this stuff. This is stuff that Jones would later be known for.
Exactly right. I mean, what did you think of this one, Maddie?
I think it might have been the hypochondriac that I was also cracking up at the expressions that Claude Cat was giving. But my favorite one personally is the first one he did when his eyes are completely black, minus for like these little small little white dots. And that expression caught me off guard because I don't think I've ever seen this cartoon minus bits and pieces. That right there, I was like, oh God, that floored me. And like what Matt was saying, this is just a precursor of things to come. I was listening to somebody on YouTube talk about it recently, but saying this is clearly the point in the studio where Jones is the undisputed master of the studio. Like his cartoons are so consistently funny, and this is a testament to it.
This is a couple years before Feed the Kitty, which is considered one of Jones' masterpieces with Mark Anthony and Pussyfoot. And later, they combined that with Claude Cat for a cartoon called Feline Frame Up, which I consider one of my favorite Warner Brothers cartoons of all time. This is that design of Claude. They finally settled on the design for him. It's just expressions. That's the thing, is you have to watch the characters' expressions.
And look, even the puppy. Matt and I are cat people. Maddie, you're a dog person. Now, as a dog person, Maddie, does the Frisky puppy remind you of your dog when she was maybe more little?
To be honest, there are parts of her that are still like that now. But yeah, yes, I've had dogs in my family. Sorry, dogs. I've had dogs in my family since I was 7 years old. Some of you have probably seen Nina on camera before in one of Anthony's other videos. There were some moments, just like that's the thing too. It's so cool how Jones found the sweet spot between making the Frisky puppy clearly a cartoon dog, and I just love Mel Blanc's barking in this cartoon, but just some of the subtleties and the behaviors that the puppy was displaying, like when he was digging through the plant and throwing the dirt around, and just little things that the puppy was doing, like the way that he was behaving with Claude, and when they were trying to bond for the first time, and I'm like, man, this really hits home as a dog owner, just seeing how a puppy reacts to everything. It was a nice balance of being goofy and silly, but also like being adorable and how puppies really are.
I grew up in a household with multiple pets. At one point, we had 3 dogs and 2 cats. But originally, it started with 1 dog and 1 cat. The cat had been around before I was born. We adopted this puppy, this Brittany Spaniel named Lucy, and we introduced the puppy to the cat at one point, and the cat scratched her on the nose and drew blood, and ever since, they wanted to kill each other, and from that point on, the dog lived outside, the cat lived inside. That was it. Because otherwise, there would have been disaster. There's this whole myth that cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria, all that. Yeah, no. Dogs lived outside. Yeah. See what I did there? Yeah. So dogs lived outside, cats lived inside in our house, but it's totally accurate. It's absolutely accurate. Cats and dogs, they get jealous of each other. They do. Because it's like they compete for their owner's affection. And even though I'm a cat person currently, I grew up with cats and dogs equally. So I get it.
And speaking of cats, I gotta love how Jones drives that point home with cats always landing on their feet, because it's subtle. It's one of those things where you'd watch the short, you may not even notice it, but how many times has Claude, before dropping to the ground, he would stop. There'll be the freeze.
Yep. In midair, stiffens the feet and then boink, lands on his feet. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yes.
And even the catnip bonbon in the beginning, I thought that was a nice little touch, showing just how pampered Claude is in this one. Reminds me of my cat. I think he's pampered way too much.
Yeah, one of my cats is 15 or 20 pounds, so I get it. I don't even feed him that much. He's just a big boy. I wonder if he would be as agile as Claude. That would be funny to figure out.
Oh, yeah. I'm assuming he's not as big as how Claude looks when he's all puffy from that wonderful washing machine cat.
No. Fluff dry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic. And this, to me, just shows, as much as Jones was really good with Maltese and the dialogue-driven shorts around this period of time, there's no question there, I've always felt that Chuck was always at his absolute best, even in his later years, in these more silent ones. I mean, yeah, it's not totally silent. We got the husband and wife in the beginning, Mel Blanc, Beer Bendera, of course. I just think that Chuck does the best with that. I mean, do you guys agree with that?
Absolutely. Chuck Jones was a master at pantomime animation. There's no question about it. Even in his more Disney-esque days towards his more stylized days, his gift was drawing frame to frame expressions. And it was something that he had a gift with no matter what writer he worked with. He wasn't great with dialogue in some instances, but when he was just able to do pantomime humor, he was one of the best at it. And I think part of it is because in his autobiography, he talks about growing up in California around Hollywood, and he used to watch Charlie Chaplin rehearse. And I think, wow, what an amazing opportunity that he had. And he said it bored him because Charlie Chaplin had to do it so many times. But he learned a lot from it, and you can tell. You can absolutely tell.
Case in point, going with the facial reactions and like what Matt was saying, which is how Jones was the master of pantomime. I've said this before and I'll say it again. And I know it's a controversial opinion that, pineapples go on pizza. Oh, sorry, wrong controversial opinion. But Manny's controversial opinion talk. Please subscribe. I was watching just a little snippet of One Froggy Evening. It's not one of my personal favorites, but I understand why. It's brilliant. But I was looking at the part in the beginning of the cartoon where, the frogs start singing Hello My Baby, and the little reactions that were done by the owner on his face when he came to that realization is like, oh, this frog is going to make me a very, very rich man. And just the little tiny expression that he had, the little change in his eye, and it's like with so little, Jones conveys so much. And nobody else in the studio, nobody ever came close in terms of that expression. I mean, obviously, when you want broad slapstick and insanity, you had Clampett. When you wanted to have, really, really interesting, cinematography, you went to Tashlin or whatever. Obviously with timing, Freeling was the best. But when it came to just one little change in the facial expression, Jones by a landslide.
Yeah. Like his eyes grow wide and his mustache twitches and then he smiles. And it's like, oh, that's great. Yeah.
Oh,
that
yeah.
little
I
man.
can't wait to talk about that one. That one's going to be an interesting discussion. But back to this short.
Matt, you were, talking before about the limited animation thing. And I was like, when I was watching, I'm like, am I going crazy? Or is this head not moving? And thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, look at it. He beat Hanna-Barbera and Filmation and anime to an extent by years. Oh, the anime fans are going to roast me in the comments. The nerds are going to come after me. No, I'm kidding. I don't hate anime. I know. There are two scenes in here. So one of them was you hear the musical cue of Laugh Clown Laugh and Claude is doing his thing. The particular animator in that scene, I don't know who it is. I'm assuming. So there's that scene with we hear Laugh Clown Laugh in the background. And the other one was when Claude opens the gate and he starts using the plunger for the coal, for the heater. It looks so different from everything else that you would typically see in the Jones unit at that time. I'm assuming it's Emery Hawkins, because based on what I've seen in some of the stuff that Hawkins did in McKimson's unit, it caught my eye because it looked so different from the others like Ken Harris or Benny Washam or whatever. It stood out to me in a visual sense. And also, speaking of music, just want to bring up some of the musical cues. The opening titles start out with Put 'em in a Box, Time with a Ribbon, which was used in another cartoon. I forgot which one. I'm forever blowing bubbles during the scene where he comes out of the dryer. And I told you guys before the commentary that he looked like a Pokemon to me. I don't know. It's like, I don't know, the new evolved form of Jigglypuff or Wigglytuff when he comes out of there. There's for the Pokemon nerds coming out.
And
you hear a little bit of the Freischutz, the overture to it near the end of the cartoon. And I freaked out because I heard the cue. And you're probably saying, what the heck are you talking about? It's that specific Carl Stalling cue that I always go crazy for. It was during the scene after the dynamite explodes on Claude, and it's the melody of it goes like this. There's that cue again, and I usually go to the first cartoon I think of is A Wild Hare. When you see Bugs after he
Yes.
knocks on Elmer's head, and it's the same exact melody, it's in the same key. I double, triple, tuple checked the cue sheets, and it is not. It's a stalling original piece of music, and it was also in Alibaba Bound when Porky Pig picks up Baby Dumpling, and when Porky goes on the back of the Baby Dumpling. And I love that cue.
Yeah.
It's so good.
If it wasn't a stalling original, it had to be something that's lost to time to us. But yes, I know that cue. Also, you notice Manny, when Claude is setting up that bait of dog biscuits, it's Mammy's little baby likes shortening,
shortening bread.
Mammy's little baby likes shortening bread. How many cartoon studios used that cue for when somebody was eating?
They still do it.
They still do.
The new Looney Tunes cartoons, I think it was one of them with Bugs and Elmer, and I heard shortening bread in it, and I'm like, my God, that cue is still being used to this day.
You hear it in old MGM Tom and Jerry cartoons. You hear it in Fleischer cartoons occasionally. Like, everybody used that. It's an old folk song. I mean, public domain, but it was common. Maybe somebody ought to do a book about how many times shortening bread was used in cartoons. I don't know.
Ooh, there you go.
I mean, there's a book about the cartoon caricatures of Peter Lorre. So.
I was just thinking about that.
That's right.
Why not?
Exactly right.
It said, speaking of shouting, Mel Blanc screaming, "Get out and stay out!"
Child, get out and stay out!
Mwah, chef's kiss.
As is always. So this sort of a cartoon, it's a solid cartoon, if not particularly outstanding, especially compared to the output of 1950. I mean, come on, right? This one just came after Rabbit of Seville, for crying out loud. But it's a great cartoon, though. I give it 8 out of 10. It's solid, it's funny, great animation, great expressions, poses, peak Jones. It's just not a standout, but hey, we could be watching a buddy cartoon. So you know what? 8 out of 10 for me.
I don't think I've ever seen this one before. Maybe I did when I was super young, but I don't remember it. It was pleasantly very, very funny. I enjoyed it more than Bushy Hair that we were talking about already. I was originally going to give it an 8.5 out of 10, but I'm like, it's a little too generous. I mean, there's plenty of other cartoons from this year that are at an 8.5. Obviously, Rabbit of Seville, I gave it a 10. Masterpiece. I give this one a nice solid 8 out of 10 as well.
I go 8.5 just because I love Claude. But after all, there are far better entries in the Claude Cat series to come. I say 8.5. That's me.
Oh, did you say there are better entries in Claude Cat? Like fur?
Oh, goodness. The dad joke is coming on strong tonight.
Oh, you're doing puns now, huh? Okay.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
a joke, son. Gag, that is.
I say that's a joke, son. Considering Claude's name is actually a pun on cats. Claude, Claus. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I never realized that until recently. I was like, wow, I'm not a very bright boy.
So
bright boy here.
So that'll do it for this one and 1950. Woohoo! It's another year done. The year in review video will come out not long after this as well, and then we'll start 1951. Well, fairly soon, I hope. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to also subscribe to Manny's Pineapple on Pizza Talk. And aside from that...
and Matt's coal burning and appliances talk as well.
That's right.
Oh, no, I say propane and propane accessories.
Talk. Plus brigades. But in any case, thanks all for watching. And until next time, take care.
Get out and stay out.